What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another fantasy booking edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert E. Felice.
Hello, everyone.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hey there.
And today we are doing part 2 of our mock draft that we had done prior, last week's main event, of the entire history of women's wrestling, and, at least from our perspectives. We had started off the idea of just doing WWE, then we decided, let's expand it. Let's be able to pick people from other companies that have never been in WWE. And then we actually expanded the original list. It was going to be, we're going to pick 30 people, and then it became maybe like 40, maybe 45, maybe 50, maybe 55. All right, let's go with 60. So we ended up with a lot bigger of a set of rosters, and I think that actually ended up helping me out quite a bit, because I think we all pretty much have 2-night WrestleMania-esque evolution cards that are going on here, but that is what we are going to be talking about, is the follow-up for all that. We've already picked our people for our rosters, so now we have to kind of put our money where our mouths are and, say, hey, this is what I would book if I had this for my roster. And if you've seen previous episodes of the mock draft and the follow-up of the matchmaker side of things, you pretty much know how this is going to go. We're going to go one by one, talk about our cards, run down any of the information that we have to set up those feuds or the storyline purposes for this, or who wins these matches and why, and our thought process behind booking all these things. And we want to know what you liked the best, what you thought was absolutely crazy and you don't understand why we did it, or how would you do things differently, anything along those lines. So as always, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure that you hit the like button if you enjoyed this. That helps out actually quite a bit. And if you think that you want to pass this around, you got the share button option on there, and you can pass this on Reddit or, Twitter or whatever it might be. I don't know, post something on, send a message to your Facebook friend or something. You also have some monetary ways that you can help us out. The little thanks button that's over there, as well as the join button. And if you click on that, you get access to the same stuff as the Patreon, which every time I look at this, I go, I forgot to change those logos to the new one, but I'll do that eventually. Those things are the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier, etc., etc. Even $1 a month is great to help us out. And if you want to pick up merchandise and get something to show off, or like a t-shirt or, a mug or whatever it might be, a hat, there's lots of different designs and lots of different products you can slap them on. So check out Redbubble and TeePublic for a Smark Out moment. For that matter, check out A Mango Tees and Fanboys Anonymous, because there's other designs there. Maybe they're interested in those too. But we are going to get into quite a few matches here. I think we all relatively had balanced out to about 15 or so matches each, and a couple different nights worth of pay-per-views if we were to stretch them out to, a realistic standard, instead of being like they're all Iron Man matches or something like that. Or I guess Iron Woman in this case, because this is all women's division. And, let's see what we have that we are going to book for that. Anybody want to go first?
Well, before we do that, should we talk about what happened post the drafting?
Yeah, I was going to say you skipped the whole thing where we switched a bunch of people.
I was going to address that for each individual person or something, but we could do that right now. We actually did make some adjustments to our rosters, and that came about mostly because we realized, we had some hiccups with the way that we were planning on doing it. I don't know how you guys feel about it. This is the way that I was. I could have kept mine exactly the same, and I just wouldn't have liked it quite as much. But the adjustments that I've made, one of them is pretty, it doesn't really matter. And the other one is so much okay, well, it could be this or that or that or that. And none of them have anything to do with adjusting your cards. So I was just like, well, I'll just put that out there as maybe you can replace this or whatever. I know that Callum had mentioned picking up people and dropping people. And this was all people that we had not drafted. So it wasn't a matter of trading people. But then we ended up kind of having trades by dropping somebody and somebody else picking them up. So I believe the first thing that had happened was Callum mentioning dropping Leilani Kai and picking up Wendy Richter, right?
Yeah, initially the two ones that I went on to saying I want to drop two of my people, and so I dropped Leilani Kai and picked up Wendy Richter, because when I drafted Leilani Kai, I actually thought that I was drafting Wendy Richter.
Yeah, just a brain fart moment, yeah.
Yeah, I got the wrong name essentially, so I decided to get the person that I initially decided to draft, and then I dropped Sarita because when I started putting my plan together for what I was going to do with the roster, I didn't have to find a comfortable place for her, so I went with Yuka Sakazaki instead, who had a more had a better slot in where I wanted to put someone.
And then I had dropped Anna J, mostly because I just didn't have a spot for her that I felt was really all that useful, and I thought that maybe she could be better used elsewhere. And I mean, I could technically have swapped her into one thing. I'll explain what happened there, but I picked up Leva Bates, and the other one that I was thinking about doing, I'll address a little bit later. But that meant that Anna J was available to get picked up, which then Callum picked her up.
Well, what happened was Rob said that he expressed an interest in taking Anna J if Tony had dropped her, and then I said to Rob, "No, I want Anna J," and so I said, "Do you want somebody from my team as a replacement?" And I offered up Sherry Martel,
Right.
And Rob decided that he would be fine taking Sherry, so I could get Anna J. So I took Anna J, and then Rob took Sherry off of my team and added it to his team.
Yeah, so now, for anybody who's wondering, this is what the current lineup looks like. You can see it on your screen if you're on the YouTube side of things. If you're on like Amazon Music or Spotify or something, obviously you don't have a screen on there. But essentially, it's no Anna J on my team, Leva Bates instead. I might drop cheerleader Melissa and pick up somebody, Lana, Brandy Rhodes, something or other like that. We'll see. Leilani Kai's gone. Sherry Martel's gone, and Sarita's gone from Callum's team in place of Wendy Richter, Yuka Sakazaki, and Anna J. And Nevaeh's gone from Rob's team, and he's picked up Sensational Sherry. So it's not drastic. It's not like we made any big switches like, I don't know, say swapping Charlotte for Deonna Purrazzo or Mercedes Moné for AJ Lee or something like that. So at least those are going to be factored in. And then when we get to explaining our parts of the card, then we'll explain a little bit better of how we reached that idea of, okay, maybe I shouldn't have this person and I should pick somebody else up instead. And, all the ins and outs that go along with that. So I'm going to switch back over to the matchmaker card thing like that so people don't get spoiled. But do you want to go, Callum? Do you want me to go? Rob, do you want to go? How you guys feeling?
I mean, I don't mind taking it first if you guys prefer.
Sure, go for it.
Go for it.
Okay, because my one takes a little bit of explaining. So, when I decided to take this, I started thinking of potential matches immediately, obviously, because that's kind of the brief. But then I started to consider Stardom, and Stardom is a roster that I say I'm not an avid follower. I tune in and out every now and again, but there is something I like about Stardom, and there's something that I like about New Japan that other promotions just don't do, and that is faction warfare. And
Yes.
there are factions in WWE and there are factions in AEW, so it's not like it's completely out of the question. What if the entire roster was split into factions? So I've got 60 people, and so I would like to introduce you to my 12 factions. Every single person on the roster split into separate factions. And when you see the final card, you'll see that this is in the order of most babyface to most heel.
there's a spectrum of it.
Because it's a sliding scale. It's not exactly. So the most babyface faction that I have are called the Skywalkers, which is led by Io Shirai and contains Riho, Sarai, Azumi, Lady Frost, and Yuka Sakazaki. And so, as that would suggest, these are very high flyers, small, kind of the, light as a feather Skywalkers. They're people that walk, that perform as if they're walking on the sky because they're so agile and effective in the air. Then we have the Free Spirits, led by Chris Statlander, with Session Martina, ODB, and Sarah Del Rey. So my idea for this faction was to be a kind of, well, Free Spirits is something that both Session Martina and ODB would be very happy about because they're very much drink-based gimmicks. Chris Statlander's a little bit, bit on the kookier side of things, especially with the whole alien gimmick beforehand. And Sarah Del Rey is kind of, I don't want to say like their handler, but like is like their trainer that's trying to like build them up and make them a more serious threat, even though they have a bit of just, they're a bit comic reliefy for the most part. But, they're still good. Chris Statlander is obviously very good, and the other two are kind of a bit more of the comedy tag team alongside them. Then we have the Stratus faction.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's Stratus.
That's totally Molly Holly leading that one, right?
Joe Stratus leads that with Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Ty Mello, Anna Jay, and Wendy Richter as her teammates. I kind of like they have the idea of like Wendy Richter used to be the head of a faction, but is now kind of the veteran that's part of another like up and coming stars faction instead.
Like Ric Flair at Evolution.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I'd say so. So she's like mainly I wouldn't say like mainly a manager, but is like a supporting act now. And the other ones I kind of thought they aligned well with Trish Stratus because they kind of fit into the kind of like the spunkier side of things in terms of like being maybe punching above their weight, but like they have a bit of a you wouldn't expect them to be as aggressive or as like having that kind of like pitbull mentality that Trish has, and I think the other ones also, they're deceptively strong or deceptively tough. Then we have the ESTs, which, as you imagine, is led by Bianca Belair, joined by Jordan Grace, Utami, Hayashishita, and Serena Deeb. And the concept about this team is the idea that Bianca Belair is the EST. She's the fastest, strongest, blood, all that other stuff. So she wanted to be joined by people, or wants to surround herself with people that also demonstrate like an EST quality. So Jordan Grace is the strongest because like she's an absolute like powerhouse. Utami Hayashishita is the toughest because she is very like mentally strong and physically durable, and Serena Deeb is the smartest. She is the professor of the ring. And Bianca Belair's kind of like obviously their leader because she has elements of all of the EST aspects. So she leads a group of essentially what they consider to be like superhumans. Then we have
digging these, by the way.
Yeah, we have the Wandering Warriors, which is the only group that doesn't have a leader because they're essentially about. There was a bunch of outcasts that are just essentially they're not really super team-matey. They don't really team up together too much, but they are joined together by the fact that they don't fit into any other group, and that is Xia Li, Hamada, and Max the Impaler. They're kind of forced together, and they still sometimes like team together and work together, but they're kind of individuals within a faction.
So is that your just five guys of your group?
The outcasts.
They actually team well together.
That's
Then we have the Joshi Stars, which is led by Manami Toyota, alongside Mayu Iwatani, Hikaru Shida, Emi Sakura, and Tam Nakano. And that is essentially like that is your big Joshi collective that champion the Joshi style and the strong style aspect of things. And Manami Toyota is like the most legendary Japanese female wrestler of all time, is the centerpiece of that, and is joined by people that will lead it to the next generation of different generations. So Emi Sakura is obviously a bit more the veteran side of the others, but the others are meant to be like the next forebearers for what Japanese women's wrestling should be. We have the Goddesses. This is where we're now moving slightly more heelish. Led by Athena, with Mako Satomura, Shiori, Laura Valkyria, and Molly Holly.
Molly Holly on there.
One is, yeah, I think that she would be a good trainer for this one, and also she has Mighty Molly aspects of her as well.
Oh, okay.
So you can kind of, she isn't Mighty Molly, but she does. But that's part of like she sometimes. My idea would be that she sometimes comes out as Mighty Molly for special matches, or at least in the Mighty Molly get-up. But the rest of them is the idea that these are people that feel like they are gods among the ring. And I think that Mako Satomura and Shiori, if you've seen their attires in the past, they kind of have that regal golden aspect to them. And obviously Athena is the fallen goddess, leads the group. We have the Coven, led by Julia Hart, with Killer Kelly, Masha Slamovich, Taylor Wilde, Kylan King, and Daphne.
I can see that.
As soon as I got Julia Hart, I traded Julia Hart for it. That's like, oh, good. I've got the linchpin of that. And yeah, essentially that is your witch creepy witch goth group. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the Barbie girls. Tiffany Stratton is the leader of the group.
Makes sense.
Joined by Mariah May, Mina Shirakawa, Zaya Brookside, and Lola Vice.
I would have given you Kelly Kelly for that.
But I know that people that aren't familiar, Mariah May, Mina Shirakawa, and Zaya Brookside were the 3 original members of Club Venus over in Stardom, which is a very, very, I would say, like, J-pop inspired group. And Lola Vice, I think, has like a Barbie quality to it, and obviously Tiffany Stratton is the perennial modern day Barbie girl. So I thought that she would definitely be the right leader for it. We have Monet Inc. This is obviously I'm saying it because it's not the ultimate heel faction, but it's the big faction of my roster, with obviously Mercedes Moné as the CEO of that faction, joined by Austin Kong, Mia Yim, Mercedes Martinez, and Diamante.
I could see that being a big group, yeah.
Yeah. The idea being that Mercedes has surrounded herself with the biggest, toughest people that she possibly can. And so, yeah, so she's basically paying off all these people to be her henchmen, so she doesn't actually wrestle that often and gets the other people to do her dirty work for her. She's kind of like in the heel MJF version of this, like MJF in the Pinnacle almost, but she's a boss and she's bossing people around.
I like that you went with the Monet Inc. too.
Yeah, I thought that would tickle you because of the Money Inc. thing as well. So, got the Glamazons, Beth Phoenix, Megan Bain, Piper Niven, Aja Kong, Nyla Rose, and Zoe Stark.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, these are your like very big, powerful women. Zoe Stark is kind of somewhat of an outlier, but my idea is that she's kind of a Glamazon in training. Like she's being developed into being the next Glamazon with these like very, very like generally like Amazonian women, led by Beth Phoenix, of course.
Did you give her any thought about putting her in another group, or was she kind of in that from the beginning?
I potentially was going to swap her around with Wendy Richter for the Stratus faction, because obviously she has a connection with Trish Stratus because of the stuff that happened this year. But I thought she felt like I think that Beth Phoenix would be a good role model for her moving forward. And then the final heel faction is Haters. Obviously, different types of haters. Led by Jamie Hayter, of course, with B. Priestley, Jazz, Kaylee Birchall, and Alison Kay. And yeah, these are just your very aggressive, very snarky heel group. They're just like very, very, very hateable and detestable in terms of just being, they don't like anybody and they'll piss everybody off. And that's like the other ones, they have at least a little bit of either credibility or honor or something about them that makes them slightly more likable, whereas they'll cheat in every match, they'll like go the extra mile to inflict pain on opponents. That's basically who those people are. So yeah, those are that's my sliding scale of factions.
Bar none, I think this is the best thing you've ever done. I'm just gonna put that out there immediately.
Already.
I mean, look at the amount of creativity here. I love it. I love everything about it, and I'm interested to see what happens next.
I will say it's immediately making me look forward to potentially doing those Time Machine Dream Team type Survivor Series things. That I'm like, yeah, we should probably try to do another one of those in November.
It was nice to because it's something that I've broached the idea of potentially doing before, but this felt like the perfect opportunity to do it because this is how Stardom approaches things. And I say, like, Stardom, I think, is the best women-centered promotion out there. So I thought, yeah, given them they're all their little collective, it means you can build a lot of feuds and stories, both within the factions themselves, but then also basically they can just fight each other, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, it has to be top babyface against top heel. It can be, okay, maybe someone in Haters has a problem with someone from Monet Inc., and then you just, even though they're both heels, one is slightly more babyface than the other, so it's likely to get the better reaction. But yeah, so I like the sliding scale approach. As Cody says, there's no such thing as heel or babyface anymore.
I'm curious, is there a color code to the... I'm not showing it up on the screen yet because I don't want people to see your full card.
I've color coded them, yeah. They've all got a color top. I didn't actually properly decide them. I just chose what colors were available in the usual like paint tool. But I could probably come up with some better colors for them in future.
I didn't know if there was like a red, deeper red is like the most heel or that kind of thing.
Nah, I'm not gone like that. It's like
gradient,
but yeah, but yeah, I'd say like if I had these skills, I'd make banners and logos for them if I could.
But then before we hold on, just real quick, because I've done something similar in the sense that I'm creating my own promotion, kind of. Tony, did you do that, or did you just sort of go with the like WWE Evolution vibe?
I pretty much went with like the Evolution thing.
Okay, that's really interesting.
I had thought about trying to like separate into like a brand split and all, and then I was just like, let me just book a card and see what happens. And then actually, it's kind of confusing. I have like a 2-night card, but one match is I didn't put it on either night. So I'll explain it,
Okay, so before then I'd actually get onto night 1 and night 2 of my show. I'll just say who my champions are. So my world champion is Mercedes Moné. Respect, that's the boss, that's the champ. The Liberty champion, I'm keeping my Liberty championship because that is my creation, and I wish to use it whenever I have the opportunity. Is Athena. My high speed champion, which is very like, yeah, and that's the name of the title in Stardom, and that is very much dedicated to the quick, the super quick, the super high flying types of wrestlers. And the high speed championship is defended in matches that can be no longer than have a 15-minute time limit. So you have to be quick and you have to get it done fairly fast to get the right result. So that's the gimmick attached to that title. And then there is the Heart and Soul Championship. The Heart and Soul Championship is always defended by knockout rules. So you have to. Essentially, it's the very grit orientated title. So not as much like last man standing matches, but if you knock someone out, the only way you could beat him is by knocking out the champion. So
it's like high speed is the like speed and agility, and heart and soul is like strength, power.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be a good way of putting it. And then they have tag team champions. I should say the high speed champion is the Shirai, and the heart and soul champion is Mayu Iwatani. And the tag team champions are Jamie Hayter and B. Priestley. And my trio champions are the Covens, Julia Hart, Killer Kelly, and Masha Slamovich. And then with that, we can get onto the actual point of this, which is the card. So we start with night 1. We're going to open. I've bookended this. So as you would expect, night 2 is main evented by the World Championship. So I've bookended it by the first match of this entire card to be the number 1 contendership for the World Championship. And that match is between the EST's Jordan Grace and Barbie Girl's Tiffany Stratton. I think this would be a good juxtaposition because I'm really, really impressed with Tiffany Stratton. She's come on leaps and bounds in the past year. And Jordan Grace is a super talented worker. She would essentially be tossing Tiffany Stratton around, but Tiffany would find ways to, both through her athleticism and like gymnastics abilities, but also her cunning and smarts, to find ways to get the better of Jordan Grace throughout it. So I think it would be a good back and forth battle before Jordan Grace finally manages to outpower Tiffany and get the victory.
I'd watch it.
Fun match.
I'd watch it right now. I wish that was the thing that was happening. I agree with what you're saying about Tiffany, and I think realistically these are two women who should be fighting over top tier titles for the next 3 to 5 years in reality.
Then we have a number 1 contenders tag team battle royal, and if you thought the faction names weren't enough, I've come up with tag team names for all of these people as well.
Subdivisions.
Yeah,
like
well,
the dyad as a part of Schism, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have in this battle royal, we have the Gods of War, Shiori and Meiko Satomura. It should really be the Goddesses of War, but I kind of look at those two and think gods sounds more appropriate for them. Because they are just like, yeah, but we could have the Goddesses of War instead as part of the Goddesses group. We have Size Matters, Piper Niven and Megan Bain. Again, two of the more Amazonian of the Amazons. We have Drink Responsibly, ODB and Session Moth Martina.
That's funny. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. We have Bad Bitches on Your Block, Mercedes Martinez and Diamante, because they should have a tag team name. It's a shame they don't. They're just called Mercedes Martinez and Diamante. Give them a tag team name. Ice Queens, Lady Frost and Yuka Sakazaki, representing the Skywalkers, so that you're more high flying team. Winter Sin, Kaylee Birchall and Alison Kay. Obviously, Kaylee Birchall, formerly Winter.
That makes a lot of sense, yes.
The only one that's an existing tag team, well, I say like the only one that's an existing tag team, the only one that I'm using the existing tag team name for is Tay J, Ty Mello and Anna J. And then because I used the Coven as the main group name, I've given the team of Taylor Wilde and Kylan King the tag team name of the Craft.
Full 90s.
So it's like so it's like Witchcraft and Ringcraft type thing.
Manager for Balk.
Yeah, just be your classic like AEW tag team battle royal, just all 18s, you have to eliminate both people to get the victory. And as you would imagine, like size matters in a battle royal, and size matters gets the victory. So Piper Niven and Megan Bain are your new number 1 contenders for the tag team championships.
I like it.
Then we have a triple threat match for the number 1 contendership for the Heart and Soul Championship. So it would still a Heart and Soul Champion qualifier. It won't be under Heart and Championship rules, so you don't have to win by knockout. But I've decided to put 3 of the hardest hitting women that I had into this one. So it's Utami Hayashishita, Xia Li, and Sarai. Again, I just think that it'd be a lot of kicks, a lot of flying forearms and flying drop kicks all over the place to get the victory. So I think that I would have Utami get the victory because I know that she does some really excellent work in Stardom, and she's very much like one of the more physical options out there. But yeah, overall, I just think it would be very, very hard hitting between all 3 of these women.
I'm not at all familiar with Utami. Not too much with Suri, but I do like Xylee. And if she's gonna be fitting in that kind of thing, then it gets a thumbs up for me.
Very, very pleased with this whole card so far.
We have a tag team strap match. That's basically it's like the strap match, but obviously one opponent is strapped up to another opponent. So we have Hikaru Shida and Emi Sakura on one side, and Aja Kong and Nyla Rose on the other.
Oof.
And I kind of like when
they got a bad option for being strapped to those two big ones. They're at a disadvantage.
I mean, I don't think I'd be too keen about being strapped towards Hikaru Shida and Emi Sakura either, because they're very, very hard hitting as well. But so I'd probably strap up Shida and Nyla Rose together because they kind of have an internal AEW feud. Just have that continue onto this one, and then Sakura and Aja Kong because they're more of the elder statesmen of these respective teams. I didn't come up with actual team names for them because I kind of feel like they're just in a feud with each other, and they've decided to band together to team up and like fight together as part of the Joshi Stars against two members of the Glamazons. And I'd have Shida and Sakura manage to topple these two beasts and get the victory. But I just wanted to have just another really hard hitting physical tag team match onto this card. I have a few gimmick matches across the entire thing, so this is one of like the first main ones, really.
I'm really liking how much thought you put into this.
Oh yeah,
which is not surprising, but
I wanted to give the women some, because I would like to see put, especially with like some of the gimmick matches, just say why aren't we seeing this stuff more often, really? But that's again, it's another debate for another time. Trios Championships, the Coven, Julia Hart, Killer Kelly, and Masha Slamovich against the Barbie Girls, Club Venus, Mina Shirakawa, Mariah May, and Xia Brookside. And this would be essentially witches that are like crazy, spooky, and occult, and using things like fake blood and the mist and all that other stuff to creep out the Barbie Girls, and the Barbie Girls having to be a bit more cunning or trying to, like being more. It's like I'm trying to think of a way of doing it, which isn't like. I don't think this is redundant. But it would be a case of like they're terrified of the scary girls, and they're throughout the entire match they're trying to get away almost from situations or having to calm themselves down because they're scared of all the blood and the gore that is being presented by the other three, and then they manage to band together, cheat to win, and get the trios titles back to the Barbie Girls.
Witches versus bitches.
A little bit, yeah, I'd say so. I thought that'd be fun.
A little bit.
High Speed Championship, Io Shirai versus Tam Nakano. Tam Nakano is the current World of Stardom champion. She's one of the best that Stardom have right now. Io Shirai is one of the best that Stardom has ever seen, and is obviously one of the best that WWE have to offer right now. So it would just be two women that are both very good, like to the physical striking and with suplexes and all that stuff, but then it also has the high speed and agility nature that you need to be at the top of the high speed championship ranks. So I thought this would be a super fun match, and you'd have, because I don't think we ever really saw it before Shirai left to go to WWE. That was kind of before Tam got her big push up to the main event of Stardom. So I think basically going with one of the best Joshi wrestlers almost of all time, if not especially right now, and then the best that Stardom currently have to offer would be a super fun match for the high speed title, and I'd have Io Shirai retain.
Not aware of Tam, but Io being a high speed champion makes perfect sense to me.
Then we have our main event of night one. It'll be a ladder match for the Liberty Championship. So it'll be Athena versus Chris Statlander. It's a match that we hopefully will see more often in AEW, or at least have a decent feud against it. I kind of feel like when Athena eventually drops the Ring of Honor World title, Chris Statlander and the TBS title should be one of the first things on her radar. And I just think that you could build up like a long-term feud between these two, and then they have to settle it in an actual ladder match. So just to get a bit more physical, a bit more aggressive, I think that these two would work well together. Statlander is the bigger and taller, stronger of the two of them. So it would be kind of using the ladder as a base and hitting Athena with it all over the place, and Athena would be diving around the place, but also using her own physicality and forearms to rock Statlander. I think this would be one of your classic, not really spot-filled ladder matches, but more like they're having a really good wrestling match and a ladder is also involved.
I can see that.
Like more like your classic, like Shawn Michaels Razor and own thing, rather than a I don't know,
like a Jeff Hardy
like
thing.
Nick Jackson versus Jeff Hardy or Nick Jackson and Phoenix thing. So, but yeah, I thought that would be a good way to main event, and you have Chris Statlander defeat Athena, become the new Liberty champion, just to have a feel good ending to night one.
Because she's in the second most babyface group. Yeah.
So I thought that'd be a good way to get the win. And Athena's not like full blood. She's obviously heel for this match, but she's one of the lesser heel groups. So I think she'd still get a good response in this as well. So that's night one. We then move on to.
I'm really impressed, and I'm genuinely like I would love to see you do more of these.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd like to do more faction-y based stuff going forward if I have the opportunity when we do other drafts. But I move on now to night 2, and we kick it off in fast-paced action with a number 1 contendership for the high-speed championship, and it's a scramble match. And the rules of this scramble match are it's a 15-minute time limit, and the last person to have scored a pin is the winner. So we have Riho, Lyra Valkyria, Azumi, Hamada, Daphne, and Lola Vice. Daphne seems like a bit of a weird one for this one, but she basically all she did in WCW and her time in TNA was dive off things in scary fashion, so she kind of fits into a high speed thing. Hamada is very much a lucha trained, so I think fits that as well, even though she obviously is Japanese, but she did a lot of her stuff in Mexico. All the other ones are very much, they can do a lot of high speed stuff. Lyra has a bit more of a power advantage over most of the people in this, so that gives her a little bit of a uniqueness to it. Lola Vice is, again, in the part of the Barbie Girls, can be a bit more heelish about it, but she has some good solid fundamentals. And Tony doesn't know about Azumi, but Rob, if you have seen some of her, you know how absolutely rapid she is. And Riho is.
I don't know if these will ever inspire Tony to ever look up any of these women, but I think he would have some fun with someone like Azumi.
Is she Azumi? Like how they call this is a legitimate question. I
just knew you were gonna go that.
Legitimate question. Like when people say you've got the Zoomies, is that like kind of, it's that just her name? Like was she born something Azumi?
I can't tell you one way or the other. Yeah. Her name is spelled, or it's presented as AZM. Like that is the 3 letters that she's associated with her name, but it's pronounced Azumi. And there was a good segment like when Sasha Banks was the New Japan Women's Champion, she defended it against Azumi and Hazuki in a match at I can't remember which New Japan show it was, but they defended it in a triple threat match. And basically her entire promos leading into it was calling Azumi AZM all the time, and Azumi getting angry about it because that's not actually how you pronounce her name. But I would have Azumi get the victory because even though I like pretty much all the women involved in this one, just her speed and like technical ability is so high that I would just absolutely love to see her mix up with Io Shirai. This is also good as well because she's part of the same faction as Io Shirai, so we could tell a little bit of a story of her trying to make a power grab for Io Shirai's leadership of the group as well as trying to take her title.
So how come you went with this rather than booking that for the championship?
Because they're part of the same group. And so if I was, again, thinking more of a long-term kind of faction-based story, I already have first of all, I already have a match on the card, which is between 2 faction members, so I didn't want to do another one like that. But I haven't mentioned what it is yet, so I didn't want to overblow it with that. But I think this would be a good long-term thing of like Azumi being a bit more in Io Shirai's, under Io Shirai's tutelage, and this is the big moment where she gets a big victory and has to take on her master, essentially. So and then see if she can overcome her. Then we have a steel cage match: Max the Impaler versus Awesome Kong. So essentially, you put two beasts in a cage and see which one of them survives. Because it'll be like, just two ultra strong, women that are absolute powerhouses. Just trying to, no titles on the line, no opportunities on the line. It's just probably two of the biggest women in the entire and most aggressive entire promotion. Just in a battle dominance, just to prove which one of them is the alpha female. And not Jazzy Gabert. And Awesome Kong gets the victory in this one. But yes, it'd be a super physical, blood-filled match.
I'm down with that.
Then we have a triple threat Queen of the Coaches match. Essentially, I put three of the people that have kind of been the quote-unquote coaches of their factions, or more of the senior members of their factions, to come together and prove which one of them is the best coach. And so it's Molly Holly, Sarah Del Rey, and Serena Deeb. So just, as I think it would be quite a more technically proficient type of match, because they want to prove that which one of them has the most solid fundamentals in the ring. And then I would have Serena Deeb get the victory, because I think that she is the most complete wrestler out of the other three. But as I just think it would be just fun seeing them try and out-wrestle each other, try and see what submissions and crazy reversals they could come up with during this match.
Also makes sense if she's part of the EST one. She's the smartest, so she would be able to pull the victory out.
Yeah, and you might also have noticed that that all three of the four members of the ESTs have won their matches so far. So there might be a little bit of a story that we're telling with this as well. But until we get to where the other member of the ESTs is, we need to talk about the Bourbon Street fight. Which is Mia Yim versus Jazz.
I get it.
So, it would just be super, again, very, very aggressive. Two of the most physical women that can use weapons all over the place. Just, again, nothing really at stake at this one. It's just been a blood feud between these two, and they're settling it on this big Evolution show. And then have Jazz get the victory over Mia Yim. Just, she's willing to go that extra bit further or far on it than, because these are two of the more heel groups, just trying to, the two members of two of the more heel groups, just trying to establish dominance again. And Jazz is just willing to go that little extra more heinous to get the victory over Mia Yim. But still, would be a fun match.
Ooh, Mia Yim should win.
Shelton Benjamin would disagree. But, then we have the number one contendership for the Liberty Championship: Zoe Stark versus Wendy Richter. I kind of like the idea of doing kind of, I don't say young versus old, but like more established name in Wendy Richter going up against one of the younger upstarts in Zoe Stark, and just trying to see which one of them is going to be the next opportunity to take on Chris Statlander now that she's the new champion. And I'd have Zoe Stark get the kind of more upset victory over the more established name Wendy Richter. But because Wendy is more of a, in my universe, more of the veteran that's on the way out, I'd kind of liken her to a modern day Tanahashi, in that she can be used to elevate people like Zoe Stark towards the next level.
And remember everybody, when we were talking about this, we're not talking about like they have to stay the ages that they are. This is kind of, we can pick time frames, we can pick like in their prime, but with the knowledge that they have now, all that. So it's not like it's like Wendy Richter in 2023. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. Then we have the Heart and Soul Championship, so knockout rules only, and this is the interfaction fight between Mayu Iwatani defending against Manami Toyota. And essentially the story going into this one is that Mayu Iwatani's been Heart and Soul champion for quite a while and has shown a lot of guts and grit. She's kind of like, I'm presenting her, again, in ways that people that aren't familiar with these two would understand. I'm presenting her as the like Orange Cassidy of this promotion, where she's defended it a long time, and it's taking a toll on her body because obviously it's always knockout rules. So she takes a beating pretty much every single match. But she's held on to it. She's shown strength. And so now she's going to have the biggest test of her career up against the leader of her faction to just prove whether she has what it takes to be the next, like the front forebearer for the Joshi Stars and for Joshi women's wrestling moving forward. And so she has to go up against the very best, and she manages to get the victory. So she beats Manami Toyota in a great match, and then Manami Toyota raises her hand afterwards and shows that she will be, when Manami's ready to step back a little bit, Mayu Iwatani will be the next leader of the Joshi Stars. So both a title defense and a kind of passing of the torch almost as well.
I don't have any idea about either of them, but I trust your judgment.
It's good, trust me. Tag team championship match, semi-main event. We got Hayter's gonna hit Jamie Hayter and B Priestley.
God, I love it so much. It's so much
fun. This is my favorite tag team though they came up with. Their opponents, Pixie Kicks, Candice LeRae and Dakota Kai.
You know what? I think we should just stop here. I think Callum wins.
Because I kind of liked it because Pixie Sticks and Dakota Kai loves to kick.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a really good name.
Yeah,
I like Hater's gonna hit too. So.
Oh yeah, I was a big fan of a lot of my names. Some of them are like less thought out than the others, but I was a big fan of these two. And so yeah, it's classic. You're very like babyface, underdog team taking on two of the hardest hitters and biggest bullies in the entire promotion in Hayter and Priestley, and then the underdogs get your victory. So Candice LeRae and Dakota Kai win and become your new tag team champions. So yeah, but it'd just be like, I think it'd be a pretty super fun match between all of these ones involved. Be a lot of joint manipulation from Hayter and B Priestley on either Dakota Kai or Candice LeRae. They'd do a really good babyface and peril thing. You got to imagine that with Candice LeRae, it's going to be very DIY like, because she has the pedigree from that. And so, and yeah, I think Dakota is a really good babyface, even though she's been heel for a long, long time now. I think that she had that very good underdog babyface spirit when she was feuding with Shayna Baszler.
She's been heel longer than she's been babyface in WWE?
I'd imagine so. At
this point, probably. I mean,
she's been heel ever since she joined the main roster.
And she was heel with the Tegan turn in NXT.
Huh. And she only turned babyface when she was teaming back up with Raquel for a bit. And then she got released pretty much like a month or two after that.
That's true.
And then so that leads us to our main event. It's a fatal four-way elimination match for the World Championship. So it's Mercedes Moné as the leader of Moné Inc. and the World Champion, defending against the leader of the ESTs, Bianca Belair, the leader of the Glamazons, Beth Phoenix, and the leader of the Stratus faction, Trish Stratus. I just wanted to put some of the bigger names together, and it's like, these are, you'd kind of build it in the sense that the other three women are basically winning all the time, and they've been constantly trying to get after Moné's title, but Moné doesn't defend it very often, and he's always putting the roadblocks of Kong and Mia Yim and Mercedes Martinez and Diamante in front of everyone else to protect her and stop people having to go after her titles. And now the three biggest faction leaders outside of Moné come together and they manage to get this four-way match signed up. So they all go after Mercedes. Fighting then breaks out between everyone else. Mercedes uses that opportunity to eliminate both Beth Phoenix and Trish Stratus. So it leads off with Moné and Bianca Belair battling for the title. And then you basically pull like a WrestleMania 38 and you have Bianca Belair overcome Mercedes, finally dethrone the CEO and capture the World Championship for herself. Yeah, so I think it'd be a fun match with all the people involved doing, like Beth Phoenix doing a lot of the power stuff, her power game up against Bianca Belair's power game. You have Trish as the most veteran of the groups, just like using her more wily mind and her experience to get the better of a lot of things, and Mercedes Moné just picking her spots more often than not. But then when Bianca, it's down to her and Bianca, we then see Mercedes come to the absolute forefront and show why she has been champion for as long as she has been, even though she doesn't defend it that often. When the lights turn on and when the moment hits, she does like bring it out and be like the best she possibly can be. And so you have Bianca get the victory. She celebrates at the end with the title belt, but then she's met in the ring by the winner of the number one contendership match from the previous night, Jordynne Grace, who is also her stablemate. And they basically just do a stare down with the championship, and you have Jordynne and the other members of the EST celebrate with Bianca, but there's always now that little bit of tension between her and Grace about which one of them is actually the EST of the ESTs.
I'd like to give you money to start a promotion.
I don't think I'll be able to get all these people. I mean, unfortunately, and some people it's virtually impossible. But yeah, I was very happy. Once I spent most of my time, obviously, then putting the card together. I spent a lot of the time, probably the first couple of hours or so, putting together what my factions were going to be.
Right.
And then from there, everything just spilled out into, because once I have factions, I can now build stories rather than, because I felt like, even though I'm sure your 2-1s will be great in terms of just putting more matches together, I wanted to make sure that there was kind of like a bit more of a structure surrounding the card, or reasons why these people were fighting each other, rather than just, even though most of it is just a case of we're parts of different factions, I think that's still a good reason for people to fight each other occasionally. But yeah, I was very happy with putting a more like complete kind of like, I guess, battle zone between loads of different groups together, and then building a card off the back of that. So yeah, I was very happy with how this one turned out.
So I have a few questions. First being, we've never really talked about it outside of, I guess, the original review podcast, but did Sasha versus Bianca really leave an impact on you? Or is it just that's what you knew you wanted to build your card around?
I think that, so I think Sasha versus Bianca is one of the best women's matches of all time. I think we'd all probably comfortably agree with that. From what from our experiences, I'd probably say it's a good, like, at least top 10, if not top 5.
Yeah,
that I've ever seen. And so it wasn't really just the match itself that had an impact on me. It's more of a case of, I think Mercedes Moné is the most, has such a aura about her, and as I said in the previous one, I think Bianca Belair is the most complete women's wrestler that I've ever seen from just a pure athleticism standpoint. Mercedes Moné has so much character, and that I wanted to kind of build the promotion around Mercedes, but then Bianca Belair is the rising star that will eventually replace her. So that was kind of my logic with Bianca getting the victory over Moné on this one.
That's really interesting.
Like you said, Callum wins already.
Yeah, like I'm
oh, that's fine. That's fine.
No, this is a really impressive card.
There's plenty of cards. Yeah.
I will say
I know
this.
it's slightly harder for you, Tony.
This has left me feeling like I would like to revisit these more, and add on to the things that we have previously booked, because you're setting up a whole universe there, and I love that.
No, yeah, a whole ecosystem. This is my WWE universe mode from like 2K12
exactly.
or something. But yeah, I know it's slightly more challenging. I was like challenging for you, Tony. It's from the ends. It's like there's a lot of matches that I put together here that you have no idea if they're good or bad or anything like that because of the people involved.
Right, but I could at least get the idea of what the feel is.
Yeah, I'm trying to like give a bit of an explanation of like why I've picked certain people together, even if they haven't checked them out. But I would encourage people, if there are certain names here that you haven't either heard before, to, if you have the time and you have the inclination, to check some of them out, because I wouldn't have picked these people to be part of my roster if I didn't think that they were all either all very good or had very much potential to be very good. I mean, Lola Vice is very raw at the moment and is very low down in her her journey, at the very start of her journey, but I see a lot of potential there. Tiffany Stratton is obviously now fulfilling that potential. There's a lot of more of the younger side of it in there, but then I mixed out with a lot of established names that we all know are going to deliver. And yeah, it's also part of the reason why I wanted to get like people like Julia Hart on the team eventually, once I'd be able to make a few trades, is because you need to have a few gimmicks in there as well. And the gimmicks really fueled the factions. So even though it's very much, as would typically be the case for me, very wrestling orientated, they all have similar characters, and those characters are forming into more complete factions. So that's why I had to get rid of some people that just really didn't fit into anywhere. I didn't know where I'd put people like Sarita in this without it feeling a bit forced.
So
yeah.
So I will go next, and I will say this real quick for those of you looking at the screen. You do not have my card on the overall spreadsheet yet because
nope.
I am a very... What'd you say?
I said nope, and I'm showing them that now. That's fine.
Because I am a very busy individual, and I like to, I have my own little way of doing it. So
are you going to add it on there as you go along? Because I could show the screen.
You could, if you just follow the pattern of what I've done on shows past. It's typically going to be like that. But I also have a little bit of explaining to do because I kind of created a fantasy promotion as well. Of course, if you want to go first, Tony, I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah, you can go. But if you are going to add it to the spreadsheet as you go along. Okay.
And like as I go along. No, I'll probably do it once you're done.
Okay, then I'll switch back to the generic screen so people aren't looking at an empty spreadsheet. Okay.
I have created Spirit Pro Wrestling, all cap Spirit, and the commissioner is Sensational Sherry.
Does Spirit stand for anything? Is it an acronym or?
I was gonna try to come up with an acronym. The only thing I could give you was that the S and the P were definitely going to be Sensational Professionals. I couldn't think of the other letters.
I'll try to think of that.
But we have a few championships here. We have the Spirit of Teamwork Championship, which will obviously be your tag team titles. The Spirit of Tomorrow Championship, which is like in terms of a pecking order, think of like a European championship, but it's, it's like your youthful, young people win this championship. There's the Free Spirit Championship, which is your IC title, your secondary belt. The Spirit of Violence, which is hardcore. And then there's the Spirit of Three, because I couldn't think of a word for the trios. So you got the Spirit of Three belt, which is your trios, and your Spirit of Excellence, which is your main top title.
No Spirit of Eddie Guerrero title.
Believe it or not, no.
What about the Holy Trinity? Spirit.
I like something with the Holy Trinity though.
I do like that thematic nature of it.
This is already way more interesting than that women's wrestling army that everybody had set up.
So to start your first show, because this will be a weekend of events. It's just your first Spirit 1, Spirit 2, let's call them. To start the first show, cold open, Sherry Martell's in her office, welcoming the fans to a new era of women's wrestling, promising the best of all eras and the best of all areas. So you're going to get your hardcore, you're going to get your, traditional wrestling, you're going to get everything. And we crown all new champions on night 1, and then all those champions will then defend their gold on night 2. And just for purposes of, because I did draft her specifically for this, Veda Scott will be Joey Stylesing the whole thing. She's calling it by herself. I think Veda is really good, and that's why I drafted her. So we kicked it off with nothing crazy. It's a singles match to get the fans warmed up. Persia Perota, or Steph DeLander, defeats Tennille Dashwood. I like that because DeLander's doing great work on the indies. They had the Aussie connection. And I think Tennille I have plans for Tennille, I'll say that. It's just a nice way to warm you up.
Good Aussie rules match to start with.
Then you have a Spirit of Teamwork semifinals match. It'll be Kylie Page and Ella Envy of Pretty Empowered going against Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. Chance and Carter defeat Pretty Empowered because of interference by the beautiful people. More on that later. Then we have a match that I'd put on any card, I think, would be on any Dream WWE Women's card. Natalya versus Alundra Blaze, with Alundra Blaze getting the victory.
It seems like that would be one of those like dream matches that Natalya would have wanted. Yeah.
It's a nice match. They shake hands at the end. Pure respect. Maybe we see more of Blaze, maybe we see more of Natty, but this is how I want to start them. They're great wrestlers. Then we have the Bring Your Own Weapons Fatal 4-Way for the Spirit of Violence Championship. Rina Yamashita versus Sawyer Rack versus Abaddon versus Nikki Cross.
Now, I'm not familiar with Rack or Yamashita, but Cross and Abaddon make perfect sense to be in the hardcore division. To me.
Absolutely. Yamashita's going to win. She's really good at the hardcore stuff. Sawyer Rack is very young and really great at the hardcore stuff as well. I would imagine this being, thumbtacks, barbed wire, not too much barbed wire though, and there's a reason for that. Table spots, just the crowd's really electric after this match. And after this, because your first champion has been crowned, Bull Nakano comes out to confront the champion, challenging her to a barbed wire death match for night 2. Then in the backstage vignette, we have Kylie and Ella. They're furious. They're kicking and screaming. They're throwing this stuff around. They challenge the beautiful people to a makeover massacre match on night 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be, those are booked now for the show. We go to our next championship match, the Spirit of Tomorrow. The triple threat match, it's Billy Starks versus Kid Bandit versus Sol Rucka. I think that these three are really fun. Kid Bandit is like fun indie star. Billy Starks is obviously going to rule the wrestling world if she keeps at it. And I still think Sol Rucka has everything needed to be a major babyface in the future. Billy Starks gets the win here by pinning Bandit, and therefore Sol Rucka now gets a one-on-one chance at the championship tomorrow night on Spirit 2.
Liking this.
Yeah,
and
it's a fun match.
We've got, people in and out of Sensational Sherry's office. And one of those people who seems just really mad as she's storming out is Camille. Camille's pissed. She's not booked. She's pissed off. She just storms out of the office, and then, it's like, oh, well, what's that all about? And then we go to our next match, our next championship match, the Free Spirit Championship, Taya Valkyrie against Trinity. Tell me that wouldn't be an absolute banger of a match in Impact Wrestling right now if Taya Valkyrie wasn't in AEW. Like, I think both of these women are phenomenal. I think Trinity has done great for her career since leaving WWE. But Taya Valkyrie is just such a great wrestler, and this has that like IC title, NWA US title tier to where you're always going to be viewed as the next in line for the Spirit of Excellence belt. If you have this, so I gave it to Taya Valkyrie, who is then challenged by Trish Adora. Trish Adora comes out, wants to face her on night 2, and that match is set up. I realize I'm running through this. What do you guys think?
A lot of double duty going on.
Oh yeah, a lot of it, because I feel like that's special, and I know that it's something you don't normally see WWE does 2 nights, but I think that's how you build, like the stronger Ring of Honor cards back in the 2000s when somebody was doing, 2-night shows. I think that kind of stuff really stood out. And throughout the night, you're getting vignettes of people such as Alley Catch and Kenzie Page, the other third of Green Powered, and Willow Nightingale, and they're all going to be in something called the Lightning in a Bottle ladder match on night 2. Lightning in a Bottle ladder match is like Money in the Bank, but it's very clear that you can challenge for any belt. There's not the World Championship. I guess Money in the Bank doesn't have that now either, but there's not that, like, it has to be for the Spirit of Excellence Championship. It's whenever you feel like it, you can take advantage of your lightning in a bottle. So you're seeing promos for people like Alley Catch, who've never gotten a shot before, or Willow, or, Kenzie Page. And then there's going to be a match to determine another competitor in the match as Bailey takes on Gail Kim. And Bailey's going to get the win. And this is modern Bailey. This is Damage Control Bailey. As much as I love the hugger, I think this Bailey just works more, and I would have loved to have seen her in a match with Gail Kim.
Quick question. Are they climbing the ladder and getting a bottle instead of a briefcase because it's lightning in a bottle? Or is it something else?
It's definitely not a briefcase. I could see it being like a specialized bottle. I would like to spend more time thinking about the props and stuff like that, but it's definitely not like, okay, you're going to carry this briefcase around. No.
Can it be like lightning instead? They have to hold lightning in their hands.
It could like,
it's one of those things you see in like Spencer's
like
gifts.
The Ultimate X. It could just be a giant lightning bolt. Actually, I quite like that idea. That's what we'll go with. It's like a lightning bolt prop.
But Gail Kim versus Bailey is would be a very, very good match.
Even without the caveat of it being to get a spot, if you just had said that was another match like Natty and Alundra Blaze, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I almost did something else with Bailey, but more on that on night 2, because I do eventually get to it. In the other semifinals match for the Spirit of Teamwork, Albadon. Yeah, Albadon. And Isla Dawn take on VXT, Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green. And VXT go over, and they're now set to face Kaden Carter and Katana Chance on night 2. They're having a stare down. They were crowned the first ever Spirit of Teamwork champions, and of course, hit the Bella Twins music, because you can't have women's tag team titles without the Bella Twins. They have talked to Sherry Martel. They're added to the match. It will be a 3-way dance on night 2 for the Spirit of Teamwork tag titles.
Surprised you went with Deonna in the tag.
Yeah, same.
Surprisingly, the one area where I had a lot of options was the tag. Because I have quite a few great teams. I went with Deonna because I like Deonna and Chelsea. And I'll explain some more about what I changed later on, but I'd had something else maybe for Chelsea, but I like VXT. But in the main event, for your first ever Spirit of Excellence Championship, it's Becky Lynch against Julia. Now, this to me is like a 30-minute, 35-minute back and forth classic. There's lots of, she got her in the disarmor. Julia gets out, near falls on Becky, but eventually Julia goes to the top rope, gets stuck by Bex, manhandle slam from the top. 1, 2, 3. Becky Lynch is your first ever Spirit of Excellence Championship winner. She is, given the belt by Sherry. There's confetti. There's all this stuff, and bam, Camille attacks her from behind. Camille says, "I've been one of the most dominant NWA Women's Champions of all time. There's no reason I shouldn't be on your level. It's a disgrace that I wasn't booked tonight. I want the match. Sherry says, well, then that's your main event for night 2, Camille against Becky Lynch. And that is your first night of Spirit Pro Wrestling.
Definitely really enjoying the gimmicky but not gimmicky aspects of this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think that Becky versus Julia would be obviously a great match, knowing how excellent Julia is, and Becky's doing, especially now, right, like the last couple of months or so, has really stepped it up in ring. Again, we all know how good she can be, but yeah, that would be a great main event for this one. I also appreciate the fact that you, among all of us, are always trying to throw in commissioner backstage segments, things leading into other things happening as well. It's like, yeah, that's a good amount of like thought and making it more of a complete show than just a, match this, match that, match whatever.
I appreciate that, because that is always the spirit I try to bring, no pun intended. So night 2 gives us another cold open. We get highlights,
backstage championship.
We get highlights from night 1, and we get Sherry promising even more craziness and some nice surprises. But we open with your lightning and a bottle ladder match, as you've got Allie Catch, Kenzie Page, Nicole Savoy, Willow Nightingale, Bailey, and then just when the bell's about to ring, Lita's music hits, because Lita's never officially gotten to be in a ladder match, but she spent so much time around ladders. She wants to be in a ladder match. She's now in the lightning in a bottle. Her main spot here is that Bailey's about to win. She knocks the ladder over. That takes Bailey out of it. Now Bailey has to basically try to kill her hero for costing her this opportunity. Willow Nightingale does eventually win this match. I almost put her in the Spirit of Tomorrow match and made her the Spirit of Tomorrow champion, but I decided I like this better, and I like Billie Starkz better as a Spirit of Tomorrow champion. I think it's more fitting. And then as a nice little cool down, get a tag team match of Kelly and Eve Torres against the Renegade Twins. Simple tag match. Renegade Twins win, because I like Kelly and Eve, but I still think the Renegades fit more of today's style of wrestling. In the Spirit of 3 championship, Shayna Baszler, Layla Hirsch, and Marina Shafir defeat Fire and Flava, which is Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz, and Savannah Evans to become the first Spirit of 3 champions. Just as they're celebrating, lights out. A visual on screen of Abaddon, Rosemary, and Jessica Havoc. You can't really have a Spirit of 3 without them, because they enjoy, it's a lot of spooky, the playing with spirits. Sets them up as the next challengers for the Spirit of 3 belt. And of course, these 3 are trying to act like they're not scared, because they're legit badasses. Why would they be, scared of these 3 that want to still act like they're in their emo phase?
The witches versus the bad bitches.
There you go again. There are some themes.
Yeah, I don't have any witches on mine.
Okay, so then we get a nice singles match. Giselle Shaw defeats Dana Brooke. And Dana Brooke is really pissed when she loses. Kind of like how she was doing when she left NXT. She's really heartbroken. But she exits, and we get the first ever Makeover Massacre. And this is, picture your standard like gimmicks where there's just all this like makeup sets and kind of fun paraphernalia that you can smash through and stuff like that.
He said sets, by the way, everybody, not sex.
Thank you. Where you can smash people through stuff, but the match can only end once both members of either team have been brown bagged. because they're both the petty bitches, and they both want to. That's their whole thing.
I like it.
So this ends because just as the beautiful people are about to brown bag both members of Pretty Empowered, Kenzie Page comes from behind, hits him, with a makeup bag, knocks him out, obviously. It's got like a brick inside of it, or however you would gimmick it. And beautiful people get brown bagged. But as we all know, not that they were drafted, but you've got so many women you can choose from here. You got Lacey Von Erich, you've got Madison Rain. You can even the odds. And then you have new trios. So that's kind of my idea going here. And in the Free Spirit title match, we get our first title change as Trish Adora defeats Taya Valkyrie. And just like that, it's maybe Taya Valkyrie's not the number one contender. Maybe it's Trish Adora who's going to carry this to the next level. But I wanted that, like, one of these titles has to immediately flop.
For the, the whoa, wow, anything could happen at any time kind of thing.
Exactly. Backstage, Dana Brooke is talking to the C-Stars, Delmy Exo and Ashley D'Amboise, and they're trying to, hey, it's okay, you gave it your best. You still have so much to offer. And she's taking offense to this. She's like, she's upset and she's kind of lashing out at them. You're not even booked on this show. And they're like, yeah, but once we do, we're going to, set our sights on the tag team division. And Tenille walks up, who's also lost, who's also kind of upset. And she says, well, when you're ready to actually step in the ring, I think there's a tag team who would be ready to face you. That sets up a future match for a future Spirit event of Tenille and Dana Brooke against Z-Stars.
I like how much thought you're putting into doing something with Dana Brooke on the side and all.
Yeah, and
especially because she was one of those like, let's make sure she gets picked kind of options.
Absolutely, I think that she does have a lot to offer. And I always enjoyed her stuff with Tenille, and I was hoping they would reunite them in WWE, and they didn't. So now we go to a very bloody, very violent barbed wire death match as Bull Nakano defeats Rina Yamashita to capture the Spirit of Violence Championship. There's barbed wire boards. There's like the explosives on them. It's a really gnarly match. And just as Bull is celebrating, well, who shows up to challenge her but her old rival, Alundra Blaze, who says, I've never gotten a chance to show that violence, but I think you're the perfect person to bring it out of me. And they kind of agree to a future Spirit of Violence championship match.
2 titles changing hands after a night.
Yeah, but I think it's fun. I think you play with it like that. And then your Spirit of Tomorrow Championship does not change hands as Billy Starks defeats Sol Ruca in a respectful, straight up match. They shake hands afterwards. It's all respect and positive, and Billy's going to hold that title for a long time. Billy would set the tone of what it means to use that title to elevate someone to the next levels. Then you have your Spirit of Teamwork, three-way, as the Bella Twins go against DXT, Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green, and Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. And I bet you guys would never believe this, but the Bella Twins win, and they do so by pinning Kaden Carter, because we're not having Deonna Purrazzo take any pinfalls on the first weekend of my promotion. No, we're not. And I like Chelsea Green too, so she's not taking the falls either. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance are great, and I think they bring a lot of innovation. But I think if you're going to have a women's tag team division, the Bella Twins are your standard, and they can now carry this to the future. There's Kelly and Eve. There's the Renegades. There's, I mentioned Decay.
Beautiful
I
people.
mentioned like the beautiful people, Pretty Empowered. There's so many women that can now challenge the Bella Twins, and you can have so many stories. And that's even before I tell you that like the main event of night one was almost Nikki Bella and Becky Lynch, because Nikki Bella is that good as a singles. I think the Bella Twins are so versatile, and like what they mean to women's wrestling, you can play with that so much.
I'm surprised you don't have Gigi Dolan and JC Jane in the tag match title match.
So they were some ideas that I had like on the cutting room floor, and I guess since I'm almost done, since there's only one more match, I can get into that a little bit, because I thought about doing Pretty Empowered and the Beautiful People as like a unit against this like Freaks and Geeks team of, you got Kid Bandit, Sawyer Wreck, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane. I thought about Dolan and Jane in the tag title tournament, because there is a lot to do with them, but I also thought, let me wait until like I have the right story to tell, because again, I would like to revisit these and tell more stories. But no, I thought about that. I thought about, having a Brie Bella in the Lightning in a Bottle. I didn't do that. I thought about doing a Queen of the Hill Battle Royal that would have been like a Royal Rumble that would have set up Camille winning instead of her just attacking Becky. I had like a lot of ideas for what this could have been, because, another name I didn't use along with Dolan and Jane is Soraya. They can be a great trios.
So they're not on the card at all?
They're not on the card at all now.
Damn, I wish I would have traded you for some people.
Who would you have taken?
I probably would have taken Dolan and Jane to replace somebody. I don't know.
You have toxic. You would have had Toxic Attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like they can be a team of like a new Absolution. There's a lot of like, that's why I do the vignettes and stuff as well, because there's a lot of ways to introduce people without it being in the ring. But you're in your main event. Camille and Becky Lynch beat the absolute crap out of each other. Camille's trying to get her with like a, apron spear through a table, throws her in the ring. Becky won't stay down. Eventually, Becky gets her down in the disarmer. Camille is forced to tap out. Becky Lynch is going to be your fighting babyface champion, but Camille will be back, and this isn't the last you've seen of that rivalry. And that, in a nutshell, is my first card for this idea of Spirit Pro Wrestling.
I dig it. I like the gimmicky stuff like I'm talking about before, like all the spirit of blank and everything. That's a good way to flesh out this roster. And I like Sherry as the general manager. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the matches look like there'll be a lot of fun. I've had a few surprises. Like, I'm surprised that you went with like a singles match for Daniel Brooke and not one for Deonna Purrazzo. That kind of like threw me off a little bit. But yeah, I like the goes into establishing, as I say, like a universe for this beyond just the actual card itself. Thinking about what would happen next and how all this would play together, and then utilizing some of your bigger stars in multiple matches. I was actually surprised that Hatch wasn't in one of your hardcore ones.
Who wasn't? I'm sorry, who'd you say?
Ali Catch.
Oh, okay, so again, another one that I was either going to have be the hardcore champion or challenge for it on the second night, and then I said, Bull Nakano would be a lot more fun in a bar match, and I'd rather establish Ali Catch as this, star of tomorrow. I even thought about her for that title. It's so weird how versatile this is when you think about how little play women's wrestling actually gets from week to week. There was a lot to be done here,
So you're
I think we've got
adding that into the thing for people to be able to see the full card.
I am going to do that.
In the meantime,
In the meantime, I will switch over to a blank screen because I don't want to show my card yet to everybody. We'll come back around to this and do highs and lows at the end of this. Get ready for something that's less complicated.
Yeah, I imagine.
I treated this as evolution in the sense of there's probably a men's roster and this is the women's roster that we're dealing with. And let's try to approach it as if we've got, you know, Raw and SmackDown-esque, but like not really necessarily exactly the way that it is. So I don't have, for instance, like the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships or the Women's World Championship and the World Championship or the Intercontinental Championship or anything along those lines. But I have it kind of similar. I kind of did like as if I could tweak it. And there was an idea that popped in my mind that we've been talking about recently that I was like, let me see if I could do this a little bit too. So I did consider making this a little bit different from normal by having kind of weight classes, but not really. So keep that in mind. I also have a weird situation where this is a 2-night thing with a match that isn't on either night. So I almost kind of booked it as if it's one really, 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 really big card with an intermission match, but the intermission match is not like a bathroom break. It's just sort of in between the two. So take that for what you will. We're going to start off with the middleweight mid-card championship, whatever you want to call it. It's a mid-card title, but it's like the middleweight thing. Babyface Mickie James against a heel champion Toni Storm. I think that this would have vibes of Mickie versus Trish in some ways. Toni Storm's character right now is kind of, it's not quite like a crazy person, but like she's got some eccentricities and Mickey's been able to pull that off in the past. I think the two of them would be able to just have a really good match between the two because they're both top-notch talents. And it starts off the crowd pretty hot. Heel Toni Storm retains her title.
Yeah, starting off with a banger there. I think that's a good way to get the crowd interested. To putting essentially two of your best workers out there to start things off.
And we're already getting into the gimmicks. And this one's the most confusing one as far as switching people up and doing all that. We have an 8-woman tag team match. It could be elimination. It could be just a one pinfall thing. I think I lean more towards just being one pinfall for this one. And that has a team of Strictly Business is their group. Stephanie McMahon, Kiana James, Ivory in the right to censor type of mode. And then here's the caveat. I didn't have a spot for cheerleader Melissa. So I originally put her in this because I was like, well, we can bring her on and do that. And she's tough and she could be kind of like the powerhouse of that. The cheerleader Melissa gimmick doesn't work with Strictly Business. She doesn't really have anything else that does. I did have some other people that I could drop her for and put in there. Like I could technically drop her and pick up Alana, drop her and pick up Brandy Rhodes. I thought about putting Taryn Terrell in here because she was the ECW general manager. I also thought about putting Sonya Deville in this spot. But I used Sonya for a different match. And the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't think I want to boost somebody else in that match up and put Sonya here because I don't think that we need to have her as a bigger name in this. So take your pick. If you want to have a better match, put cheerleader Melissa in there and just say like she was brought on as like, a tough one. If you want to have it be strictly business, maybe put Lana in there. But they're the heels, obviously. And they were up against Fun and Games. Thea Hale, Fallon Henley, Sky Blue, and Wendy Chu. Obviously, baby faces are the quirky, funny type of, power positivity group. Strictly Business is a bunch of heels, so that makes sense in that right. And when you look at those two teams, I mean, Kiana James is on par with Fallon Henley. Well, cheerleader Melissa or whatever has an edge over some of the other people. Ivory has an edge over them. Stephanie's kind of the weak link on her team, but she's more there for the managerial side, but she's still the one that gets the win for her team because she is still the biggest heel of the group. So they do a lot of the work, and she picks up the scraps and she pins like a Wendy Chu. Puts her to sleep, maybe. I don't know. I thought about an idea of doing a go to sleep match with Wendy Chu involved, but I ended up not doing that.
Would have been the opponent.
It would have been Ronda Rousey. And then I was like, yeah, that's a waste of Ronda Rousey. So.
But yeah, it's I mean, it is very important that on an Evolution card you pay tribute to the person that invented women's wrestling.
Yeah, very much so. Match number 3 is the idea about teaching somebody some respect. And it's an I Quit match. You've got Michelle McCool with Layla. Of course, they're the heels. Up against a babyface version of Lacey Evans, with the idea in mind being that they didn't botch the whole I'm a veteran and I am pretty tough and whatever, and they didn't turn it into so I guess you should boo me. And then I had put Ivory in there, as I made this a tag team match originally. It was going to be Ivory and Lacey Evans, where Ivory's just sort of a veteran. And I was like, I don't really like that idea that she's just teaming with Lacey. There's no connection between that. And I liked her as the Right to Censor one better. So then I took Layla out, and that's why it's just Michelle with Layla. And then I was like, I kind of need somebody to balance that out a little bit. Here's where we could play around a little bit more. So Anna Jay had been dropped, and I picked up Leva Bates. But I could also swap her for somebody else that nobody else has. So take your pick between either of those. Red, white, and blue pants to go along with that. Or I was looking up people that had any kind of military background, and I came across Attaché from Glow. Apparently she's like a military character. And I was like, that would be even more fun. So I don't know anything about her. But if you want to put Red, white, and blue pants in there, you can. If you want to put Attaché from Glow in there as the backup for Lacey Evans, whoever it is, she needs somebody to back her up. And she manages to make Michelle McCool tap out. So babyface Lacey Evans gets the win in this I Quit match.
I'm a little shocked at how much of this so far is straight up like, I mean, if you want to, put this one in there.
Well, those are the two that were all messed up. There's one other one that affects, but not as much as the other one.
Yeah, that's
I think it'd be decent. You kind of lost me at the phrase "babyface Lacey Evans." That kind of, I don't know if those words fit in my lexicon.
I like that you phrased that by saying if we could be decent about it.
Well, I always thought that they had more that they left out there that they could have done more with the babyface Lacey Evans thing, and they just went straight to why aren't you cheering me enough? Boo me. And like what? Like that? They didn't even give her a chance to be a babyface, And I wanted somebody for Michelle McCool to go up against, and I didn't have her for a championship that I really thought was useful, and I didn't want to put her in one of the multi-women matches or something. So, like I said, this started off as kind of a tag team thing. I actually ended up having a lot of tag teams too. I started out with like just pairing people up in 2s and 4s and 3s, and next thing I knew, I was like, all right, that's 70% of my roster. What do I do here? So you're gonna see some more tag team setups. And a match that was originally a tag team one, it got switched, and then a 3-way that was switched in a different way and all. So we're gonna go to a tag team match. Funny enough, this is the tag team championship match, and I don't have team names for these groups. It's just the heeled group and the babyface group, but it is essentially a theme here of Playboy Bunny. So you've got Allie the bunny and Penelope Ford as the like you could see where I'm going there. And you've got the babyface team of Ashley Massaro and Candice Michelle. And your special guest referee is Sable. Champions. Well, China seems for something else. But Sable was somebody I could not figure out where I really wanted to put her on the card. And I was like, she works best in my mind in like WWE history. Like she was never a great wrestler. Yeah. She works best as somebody who's not wrestling. And I can't put her against like, I'm going to put her against Thunder Rosa and have a real banger match. You know what I mean? So I was like, I think that this makes sense.
With all the respect in the world, she works best as tits in ring.
Pretty much.
That's kind of
I'll say this because I had Sable at one point, and because Tony is such an attitude era guy, I thought he might put her against China and just do the match.
Nah,
that never got done.
Never remotely came into my viewpoint of doing that match.
Well, I tried for you, Sable. You're more than tits to me.
I thought about putting her in a different match. I'll get to that a little bit later. But then when I started to book this and I started to put these tag teams together, I was like, oh, I could do Playboy Bunny as the theme or whatever. And it's, Playboy and the bunny and the, whatever. And Sable is sort of a neutral party. She could be a heel. We've seen her do that. She could be a babyface. We've seen her do that. So she's in there as like, well, which is she going to call this match down the middle, or is she going to kind of screw over the baby faces? But she counts a normal pinfall. Baby faces of Ashley Massaro and Candice Michelle retain their titles and can move on to any of the other tag teams because there's quite a bit, actually. Let's see. That was match number 4. So match number 5 is a hardcore fatal 4-way number 1 contenders match. This was a tag team match that switched around with switching a different person in there. So originally it was Asuka and Kairi Sane against Luna Vachon and Victoria. And then I wanted to move Kairi into another spot. And I was like, all right, well, then I can't do a tag team match without Asuka having a partner. So I decided a 4-way because I thought also, it'd be fun to see Victoria and Luna Vachon go at it instead of be a tag team. And I thought about making this triple threat, but then I had Thunder Rosa, and she has proven herself really good with not fatal 4-way, with hardcore matches. So it's a babyface Asuka, a heel Luna Vachon, a babyface Thunder Rosa, and a heel Victoria in a hardcore 4-way, just beat the living shit out of each other match. Asuka comes out victorious, probably because she finds a way to get the Mist involved.
How are you?
Yeah, it's a nice collection of very hard-hitting women going on with hardcore. Kind of hardcore rules. Yeah, I think that would work out well.
Number 6 is a match to determine who is the most beautiful / cutest in the world. Carmella as a babyface against Maki Ito.
Okay. That's fun.
Carmella's called herself the most beautiful woman in WWE. Maki Ito, who's the cutest and all. So this makes sense in that way. And Carmella is more of a babyface in a lot of ways in my mind. I tend to book her, I think, more as babyface because she's got the potential to do both. But here she's babyface, and Maki Ito cheats to win.
I mean, I would personally, just from my knowledge of them, I would definitely go babyface Maki Ito and heel Carmella. But yeah, that's like dual card, and Carmella does very much work as a babyface. I think more with the beautiful side of things, it's more of a heel thing for her. But,
and you know what? That can work the same exact way, and Maki Ito can cheat to win, and it could be cute that she cheated. Like, it's one way or another.
Yeah, but one way or the other. Like, it depends on who has the card, but but I think it'd be a funny match. That Carmella's very good as has a lot of comedic talent to her, so I think that would be a fun match.
Yeah, it's definitely got more of a comedic edge to it, for sure. And that leads us into kind of, I guess, if you're splitting us in this 2 nights, the main event of night 1, but then if you're treating this as not quite, then whatever, time's linear.
Well, how would you have treated it?
I originally had it down as night 1 main event, and then I didn't know where to put that other match that we'll get to after this. But then, so we're in hyper time. That's what we're doing. Hyper time's not the first time this is going to come up in podcast this year. Hint, hint. World Championship match. Heel Charlotte Flair, typical queen kind of character that she normally does, against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, babyface. It's a match that is in that range of what people kind of compare, well, if Charlotte was going to face anybody, here's the list of some people from AEW that she would go up against and all. Baker is much easier to cheer for than Flair. That makes perfect sense for her to be the babyface. And she is able to win the championship from Flair because I like babyfaces winning titles.
I also like babyface.
Yeah, I think this would be a good match between these two. I think that I think if you are able to establish like Charlotte as the big bad, as you would probably look to do, and then have Britt Baker be like, I would kind of like a story where like these two were tag team for a while, and then Charlotte got tired of Britt Baker and used her as a stepping stone to get to the top, and then Britt Baker comes back to win the title off of her. I think that'd be a good way of doing it.
Yeah, I didn't think too much about like
Nah,
pre and post setup for this, but a little bit of the setup of what would go beyond that. So I had said Asuka is the number one contender. Asuka can be the number one contender for either of the quote unquote world titles. And she is not going to go up against Britt Baker because it's not babyface against babyface. So she has somebody else in mind that she wants to go up against. We'll get into that in a minute. But there's also another number one contenders-esque type match. And you know that this was going to be on the card. We can't have a big man buffet, but we can have the big beautiful woman buffet.
You couldn't at least call it a BBW Battle Royal? Like,
No, you got to call it the buffet. It's got to be a buffet.
Like,
it's always going to be a buffet.
Okay.
It's not the longest title of a buffet match that I have because I have one that is very long of a title for my ultimate all-time card of something that involves Andre the Giant. So it's, yeah, we'll come across that down the line, but that is my favorite name. This one's up there for those names. So this has 4 heels, 4 baby faces. Bertha Faye, Jacqueline, Jade Cargill, Jazzy Gabert, Nia Jax, Nikita Lyons, Raquel Rodriguez, and Tamina Snuka. Heels are Faye, Cargill, Snuka, and Jax. Baby faces are Jacqueline, Nikita, Raquel, and Gabert. I'm going to go Jade Cargill wins this. So we have our 2 number 1 contenders in mind, Asuka and Jade Cargill. One could go up against one could go against the other. Let's see what happens. But between the two, obviously, Asuka, I said she's not going to fight Britt Baker, so that means Jade Cargill is going to be a future threat for Britt Baker. That is a match that's like between the 2 cards. So this is kind of night 2 opener in some ways. And we're going to go to the cruiserweight, lightweight, whatever you want to call it, mid-card type of championship. It's a triple threat match. These 3 were in a group at one point, and they were also going to go up against each other if I would have had somebody else or something, but I ended up just splitting them into a 3-way. This is almost kind of like theme-based. It's AJ Lee as the champion, babyface, against Cora Jade, heel, against Roxanne Perez, babyface. It's basically mom and her 2 daughters. So AJ's kind of sort of the tweener-ish between them. If you want to go with like one has to be a tweener, one has to be a heel, one's babyface. Heel Cora Jade, heel or not heel, tweener AJ Lee, babyface Roxanne. And AJ Lee goes in as the champion, but Roxanne walks out with the championship.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
It.
I think it's just like you kind of it's like you tell the story of like mum handling her 2 kids in the match. Almost like she's a tweener because she wants to be kind of discipline them, but also not too much because they're they're her little ones, and she loves them even if they are going after her.
Would have been a fun stable. Now that I think about it.
I was going to do AJ, Cora, and Roxanne against 3 people. And when I kept trying to get my pairs together, I was like, there's just nothing standing out to me. And no themes or no like, well, these would like work really, really well together or whatever. So I was just like, if I'm going to go with these like mid-card titles and stuff, I think AJ being in that range, and they are all really tiny. So that kind of simplifies like the cruiserweight aspect of that, and it's a good way to start off another night with kind of flipping around. and then leading into another mid-card championship. This is sort of a tertiary championship, European title equivalent kind of thing. It's the Queen's Crown coronation, bringing back the Queen's Crown and King of the Ring idea. So you have the Queen of the Damned, Zelina Vega, with her, kind of Queen's Crown that she had, against the Pirate Princess, Kairi Sane. She's a babyface, of course, and Pirate Princess wins. She gets the crown on her head, and she could be sort of Queen of the Ring going forward.
I like that.
You had two queen gimmicks, or two at least royalty based gimmicks, and you put them together. As I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, I didn't want to go with like Queen Charlotte, for instance. And when I thought about the Asuka and Kairi versus Luna and Victoria thing, I was like, I actually kind of want more of a hardcore edge to this. So that's where I was like, Kairi doesn't strike me as, and then she'll beat the crap out of each other more than Thunder Rosa. So once I had this in mind, I was like, Kairi and Zelina, they're around the same stature. They could have a really good match, I think. Zelina's underrated, and Kairi's great too. And we have our other 8-woman tag team match. This is my typical The Beautiful People against the Alternadivas. Alternative Divas. Whatever. I didn't have Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, but I do have Mandy Rose as the kind of leader of this group of The Beautiful People. And she includes Maurice and Melina and Taryn Terrell against the more alt chicks group of Shotzi Blackheart, Ruby Riott, Tegan Knox, and Caitlyn. Caitlyn might not seem like she necessarily fits in that, but if you've seen her ring gear more so and all, like, she wanted to...
anything Caitlyn's done, Caitlyn fits that.
Like, she started off as just like a typical blonde, whatever, but then she eventually tried to get more of like the fishnets and everything too. So I'm like, yeah, she could work in that. And I had played around with her in a couple different other spots. Thought about putting her in the buffet match, but I liked her better in this spot too. So what's usually the case, I went with the alt chicks winning this, because if you're going to tell a story like that, you got to worry about not necessarily sending the wrong message. And The Beautiful People are they're the bitch characters. They're the heels, and they lose because they're all concerned about their looks. So it's not necessarily elimination match. It could be. I think if it was elimination, I'd probably end it with Shotzi being like the sole survivor. If it's not, then you don't have to worry about that. And then maybe Shotzi pins like Taryn or somebody. After that,
another fun gimmicky match.
That's a staple for you.
Yeah, you know what I'm gonna do with a lot of these. Yeah. I have an MMA rules. You have to win by TKO or submission match. Ronda Rousey accompanied by Paige Van Zant against Sonya Deville, accompanied by Ivy Nile. So this is where I had gotten into the other thing where I was like, if I put Sonya in the strictly business thing, who do I have going up against Ronda Rousey? And I thought about doing some kind of like Ronda versus Asuka match, or Ronda versus Thunder Rosa, or Ronda versus Luna Vachon, or Ronda versus Victoria, and like kind of playing around with that. And none of it just sounded all that right to me. So the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I think I'm just going to go heel Sonya with Ivy Nile as like her underling, and babyface Ronda with Paige as her underling, and kind of offset a little bit of the Lacey Evans and Michelle McCool match. I also thought about maybe dropping Cheerleader Melissa, putting Sonya in the strictly business thing, and then making this picking up Jessamine Duke. And then I was like, I really don't want to do Jessamine Duke versus Ronda Rousey.
Was Jessamine Duke free? I could have just slotted her in for that.
Yeah, she was free.
That's something I should have thought about.
Also thought about Cheerleader Melissa against Ronda Rousey, and I was like, that might be a better match than the Sonya and Ronda one, but there's no necessarily like, I can't speak to Cheerleader Melissa being better necessarily than Sonya Deville. I'm more familiar with Sonya, so treat Sonya more as like an actual threat and go with babyface Ronda winning. Let's see where we are now. That was number 12. Number 13 is the the Harley Quinn baseball bat on a pole match. You know how these two really like to consider themselves like the Harley Quinns of WWE. You got Alexa Bliss against Liv Morgan. And it is quite literally a baseball bat on a pole match. They could reach the baseball bat and use that as a weapon.
Funny. Very funny.
Yeah. I will say that this is fitting considering Bliss's excellent record of things on pole match.
Well, it's not a kendo stick. At least we got a bat here, and they're bat shit crazy. So it works like that.
Proud of yourself.
A little bit. Bliss is the heel. She wins because it is more so in my book to make Harley a heel. We'll talk more about her a little bit down there. You could ask both a serious and an unserious if you have that.
Anyway, I've seen some of the work you've done for the Survivor Series, Marvel and DC. The amount of times you've said Harley Quinn in a match about Liv Morgan and Bliss. Were you just like, man, I want to do more of the Survivor Series thing when you were writing that?
I mean, I did mention Hyper Time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
For anybody who doesn't know, let me put that up on the screen. DC versus Marvel. It is something that I have in the works. And you know what? I'm just going to tease you with something right now. I'm going to show you one of those matches for the sake of it. Let me pick something that's not going to be spoiling too much. We'll go with this. We'll go with the survival of the fittest last warmonger standing match between Mongol and Apocalypse. Trust me, I've put a lot of thought into the DC versus Marvel one. But let me not spoil everything by showing the whole card here and my OBS setup and everything. So we go from a Harley Quinn match, and if I can make any kind of a Joker transition, it's going to be this to the You Gotta Be Joking Me comedic tag team match. The Iconics as baby faces. Because I do think that they were funny enough that they could have had a really good babyface run. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are going up against a team that I wasn't sure which team name I wanted to go with here. So it's Alicia Fox and Red Velvet. You could go with one of these two names, or if you think of something else, of course, drop that in the comments below. Originally, I had them down as hotcakes. And then I thought nutty as a fruitcake. But the idea in mind being Fox and Velvet are the two heels. They are on the comedic side. Red Velvet's not like super funny or whatever, but I think that she could pull this off. And Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are the comedic babyface team. And let's send people home happy in some other ways as many times as we can. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce get the win here. This is the bathroom break match, if you didn't already know.
I would say that we know that the Iconics can work as a babyface because they were babyfaces in Impact as the inspiration. So that was their. So yeah, we know they can work as that style. And yeah, I don't know if like the nutty's a fruitcake or hotcakes or whatever it is. Is there any type of cake that has a lot of alcohol in it? Maybe we could do that.
There's boozy cakes. Rum cake is.
Yeah. But yeah, that was that'd be just like a fun little escape for a lot of people.
And after watching, if you're especially making this one night, you needed the bathroom break before the main event. So that takes us.
You didn't actually plot this out like, okay, it has to be 2 nights.
No, I'll show up on the screen. It's 2 separate nights, but then there's the buffet match at the bottom in between the two. So that's where I was just like,
the buffer. Sorry.
The big beautiful woman buffer match. There you go.
Oh, God.
And Michael Buffer does the announcement for it. So our main event is the quote unquote heavyweight championship match, since we have the mid-card midweight and the mid-card cruiserweight, and we have the world championship. I kind of booked this in the sense that anybody can be the Queen's Crown. Anybody can be the world champion, but you have to fit a certain weight limit to be the cruiserweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. Instead of creating, and anybody can be the tag team too. Instead of creating it to be like, okay, well, the hardcore title is necessarily anybody. Well, that's sort of the Queen's Crown. It's not hardcore, but that's where we're getting at. So the heavyweight does have to be more on the bigger side. And that is a babyface China going up against the heel champion Rhea Ripley.
You know, I really shouldn't be surprised, but I'm a little surprised that I didn't see it coming.
Why is that?
I don't know. I guess I should have known that that's where you would go with it. I like it though.
Who do you think wins?
Ripley.
Yeah, even though I want to send people home happy, heel champion Rhea Ripley asserts her dominance and wins. And that means that in the future, we are going to get Jade Cargill versus Britt Baker, and we're going to get Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. But there's also the tease down the line of eventually Jade's going to end up going up against Rhea. And what happens there?
Yeah, I think that's good. It's a good way of doing it. Again, it's not the classic 30-minute match at the end of a show that you would sometimes do for some other cards, but yeah, it's putting two of the most physically impressive women in WWE's history together in a big main event match, and China's always been super popular, and Ripley's super popular as well, so it makes sense making Rip the heel. It also makes sense not just from the both having a similar look and like physicality to them, but they both spent a portion of their careers being referred to as mummy. So
that's true. I didn't even think about that.
So I have a question. Is that something that you just knew immediately you were going to do? Or was that like, okay, I can't think of anything else for Rio or China?
When I had my draft board, I had Rhea, China, and a few other people. I think Beth might have been in the list of like, all right, I want to try to get two of them. And then I could either have a heel for some smaller babyface to overcome or put those two together. And it could either be the championship or it could be kind of filling in like that Undertaker type spot or the Brock spot of like a featured upper mid card semi-main situation. Once I got Rhea first, and then I was able to come back around and get China, I was like, all right, chances are that's my world title match. But then I got Flair. And the more that I was looking at the group, I did what I normally do, where I take my groups of people and I break them up as like people I really want to focus on, people that are somewhere in the middle, and then people that I know full well I'm not going to do much with. So I had like, for instance, Flair and Mickey and Tony Storm and Asuka and Rhea and Jade and a few of them as like, okay, make sure I do something with them. Middle group was essentially the people like Mandy, Maurice, Bliss, Carmella, Victoria. And then the group that I was like, let's see what I can do with them were like Red Velvet, Ivy Nile, Wendy Chu. So after that, I went through and started to make the teams of groups of people. And I think the next step I did was I took Naya and Tamina, put them as a team, and then immediately said, no, wait, I'm just going to put them in the buffet match. So I was like, yeah, that makes more sense. And then I kind of separated the buffet match ones because I was like, I don't have anything else in mind for them. I don't really want to do anything with Bertha Faye other than put her in there. So on and so forth. And kind of just started pairing people up a little bit left and right by themes. Evolution. There you go.
I really got an interesting vibe from this one because I think this really showed like the different way we approach these things. Because like Callum had a full plan of like factions, and I just immediately was like, how can I create a better wrestling version of something like a WoW? That I think there's something there, but there could be so much more. And then it seems like you had the most WWE inspired show where you're just like, okay, I have been tasked with doing an all women's show. What do I do?
Very much so.
This.
Yeah, I mean, I was not taking this as like it's its own separate company. I was taking this as like I'm doing the women's division, and I've probably got some men's division that I'm ignoring for this show.
I've always meant these fantasy booking things as if like these are the only people that I have in any circumstance. So trying to create some kind of more universe out of it is something that I do take enjoyment. And this is the one where I went like deeper than probably I have before in terms of trying to establish a universe or an ecosystem with which you can kind of grow and build it moving forward. But I think that's like we all took slightly different approaches, but we've come up with some very fun matches and overall fun cards that I think would, even despite Evolution being a very successful show when it happened, I think that I'd prefer to watch pretty much all of these over what we saw on that night 5 years ago.
And I am kind of curious in revisiting this, even in the sense of what I might do. I don't know for sure about like our plans for the Darkcast or something, but if I get enough time, I might go ahead and try to book my group as the way that you two did and be like, let me see if I can create stable warfare. And then let me see if I can create like, I mean, I could already tell you like Stephanie McMahon would fill in the Sherry Martel role. And who would I necessarily book as like, let's set up champions as like, we're going to establish our champions this night and stuff. Cause that's a totally different approach than me being like, I'm assuming my current mid-card cruiserweight champion's AJ Lee heading into this match and all that. So that's going to be an interesting thing I might play around with. Maybe that'll be the Darkcast for this month.
Right, and like when Callum said Sherry was up for grabs, I knew immediately like that's someone I want. That's something I want to have on my show. Just because I think that there's a lot there, and we've never really seen that, have we? Where it's just like all women's promotion, and I would like to see that tried now. I was hoping Maria would do that with the Women's Wrestling Army thing. And I don't really know where that stands right now.
Did they do more than like one show?
Yeah, they did.
Well, we also have another way that we can revisit this for anybody that's curious if they, want more than just even the Darkcast thing is we've got a lot of these mock draft pay-per-view card things where we didn't do the other aspect of the matchmaker, which is to do the ultimate card. We haven't done many of those. And to do an ultimate women's card where the three of us have everybody that's available here and other people that we didn't draft yet. And we start trying to figure out, all right, we can't put them all on the card, but we got 2 nights. That will change everything.
I think we should do that for the women. I think that that's a really unique exercise that we should try.
I think we've only done, let's see, which one? How many of those did we do so far? I think we might have done like Ultimate NXT was one of them. We've done so many of these at this point. I've lost. We did Ultimate Roster from way back in. Ultimate card for that. I think we might have done. Yeah, we did Ultimate NXT, ROH Ultimate card teams, or maybe not. Maybe I just created this. I don't think we did the Legacy Ultimate card. No, the Ultimate AEW and WWE card we didn't do yet. We did the Ultimate NXT UK card. That was one, and yeah, we still have a lot on the back burner for that. So
now that Ultimate NXT UK card might have been something we did simply because we couldn't do.
We didn't have enough people. Yeah. We did just the Ultimate because it was like, all right, well, if we do a draft, we're going to have 3 matches on our cards. And it'll be like, well, I guess my champion is, what's his face? Sam Gradwell and stuff. So let's go highs and lows. Going back to, let's start with mine because it's most fresh. My personal favorite out of all this that I would be like, hey, I actually really want to see that or whatever would be the Rhea Ripley and China match most likely. Although I think that the quality of the match would probably be the Asuka, Thunder Rosa, Luna Vachon, Victoria hardcore match or the Mickie James, Toni Storm match. My low is pretty much the Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Alicia Fox, and Red Velvet one, because that's a comedic match, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you called it your bathroom break, so I have to say that. I'm surprised you just kicked off your show with Mickie James and Toni Storm, but I think that'd be a really fun match. I'd want to see Charlotte Flair and Britt Baker more than anything. And I'd probably skip your Playboy Bunny with the Bunny tag team championship match.
Yeah, I that's my favorite is probably the match that I would probably enjoy the most would be Mickie James versus Toni Storm. I think that's just the best quality contest out of all of them. The one that I'm least excited about would either be your 8-woman tag match from night one of Strictly Business against Fun and Games, because most of the people involved I'm not a particularly huge fan of. And then all the tag championship match, I would have probably actually preferred the tag title match to be your other tag match, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce versus Alicia Fox and Red Velvet, than this one.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
That one doesn't really that one didn't really connect with me.
Going back over to Rob's, he's got his card out there for us to be able to see. He's bouncing around on his screen. You can see, you're filling it in right now. I would say the low point for me, because I am not familiar with some of these names either. So, like, to me, the Spirit of Teamwork semifinals with Kylie Page and Ella Envy against Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. I'll change that for you. I don't know Kylie Page and Ella Envy. And, like, I don't know Yamashita, Sawyer Wreck. I don't know Kid Bandit. So any of those kind of throw me off a little bit. But I would say probably the match more than anything that I would be least interested would be Dana Brooke versus Giselle Shaw.
I mean, and that's your filler. That's your buffer kind of match. I will say, unironically, this exercise made me go, fuck, I guess I pay attention to the NWA.
Yeah.
Because I was really like, I mean, if we look at it, I have Camille headlining my second night, and Pretty Empowered got a spot on my card as well. I think that's the most surprising thing for me, is that I really paid attention. I'm really, like, tapped into women's wrestling way more than I would think when doing this.
I'd probably say the high for me would either be Camille Becky or Gail Kim Bailey. I'm not too sure between those two.
I think you would enjoy Camille. What about you, Cal?
My favorite is Becky versus Julia, because I know how violent that would probably get, and Gail Kim versus Bailey would be high up there as well. As so would Sheets versus Bull Nakano, because if you do a barbed wire death match well, then it could be a super fun match. There's a couple that don't really inspire me. Dana Brooke versus Giselle Shaw is one of them. Kelly and Torres versus the Renegades, not really my thing. And then just one that's I'm sure would be fine, but it just doesn't do anything for me, is Taya versus Trinity.
That's fair.
I know that Trinity's probably been a lot better since joining Impact, but I've never been I was never the hugest fan of her in ring, and I've never really been, not for a long time anyway, a big fan of Taya in ring. So, but yeah, for the most part, a lot of these look like fun. So yeah, there's not much that I would change or want to get rid of.
And then over on Callum's, I am totally unfamiliar with about a third, if not a half, of this roster. So those are all blind spots for me. But I would say, by what I do know, the low point for me would probably be Zoe Stark against Wendy Richter. And the high point would probably be the main event, the 4-way for the world title.
I would say for Callum, first of all, I'm amazed at your organization. Like, every time we do one of these, I'm like, you're so well thought out, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about working with you. Um, for me, I love ladder matches, so Athena and Stylander sticks out. But that elimination match is a really special idea, and I like the idea of using the elimination factor to get more women in, but also get to the point you want to tell. So I really enjoy your 2 main events, but also Max and Kong in a cage. Uh, reminds me of like Bull Nakano, Aj Kong. Stop. In theory, I don't know if that's what you're going for, but I like that idea as well. Oh, and as I said in the first part of it, Jordan Grace and Tiffany Stratton should be a match that we see for a major championship one day.
So what you're saying is you want Jordan Grace in NXT. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, no, yeah, I absolutely. I want Jordan Grace in any major promotion because I think she's that good.
And as a reminder, here on the screen, these were the rosters that we had that we could work from. So definitely let us know if you want us to follow this up in some way, whether it's the ultimate card or it's to do the thing like I mentioned before about like, you know, I might play around with making 2 alternative versions of my card or something like that. Maybe these guys might too, you know. There's nothing stopping us from revisiting this in one way or another. Also, let us know what you want us to do for future episodes, because we don't really have one set in mind for the next one guaranteed right now. I do have that fantasy booking of Marvel versus DC, but that's separate. It's not a mock draft or anything. And that's half Fanboys Anonymous and all that. So, you know, look forward to that.
All right, I'm going to just be truthful here. I want to see a card where you put the amount of thought and effort that Callum would. It was abundantly clear here that this is just sort of like I have to make a card. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do, and you know, the energy is there.
I will put it this way: I put maybe an hour's worth of work into setting up this card for the Women's Evolution one, and I put maybe 5 times that amount to just get graphics for the Marvel versus DC one. You know, it's just I don't get the chance to do as much fanboy stuff, so whenever I relish in that, I do that way more. But the fantasy card stuff, the mock draft stuff is definitely one of my more favorite things that we do here. So the more that you guys support it, the more that you let us know in the comments that you love it, the more that you hit the like button, the more that you sponsor it through the Pick Your Poison tier, because you could always do that too if you're like, hey, I've got a set number of people I want you to pick from. Maybe it's like really, really bad people. We've done the worst at one point, but maybe there's even worse people that we didn't add in there or something. Or maybe it's a theme, or maybe it's just your top 100 favorite people. And you're like, I want you guys to pick 33 people each and something. I don't know, you know. Pick a Poison's an option, though. The Darkcast might end up being a follow-up for this. I'm not going to guarantee that's the case because I don't know the time I'll be able to dedicate to it, but we'll sort that out in the next couple weeks or so. But also let us know which one of these cards you would want to see the most. Which matches are you most excited about? Which matches do you think fell short? Are we crazy? Are we genius? There's a fine line between those two. And if you've watched A Refutable Kill, you know the difference. I would go, I'm not familiar with Callum's as much, but I think that if I were, I probably would be super into that. But I also really, really, really like how Rob made this like a separate promotion. So I kind of can't even pick between the two of them. That's not a cop-out answer. It's just the truth.
I would like to see, you know, what Callum's vision of faction warfare could play out on week-to-week TV. Because mine is, you know, I did put some extra thought into mine, but it's still largely based in a TV wrestling promotion. I'd like to see the way that faction warfare plays out on week-to-week television.
It would be interesting to see because Stardom runs like so many shows on a like weekly, monthly basis that it can get quite repetitive with faction warfare. So I don't know how long it would last. You'd have to be changing up factions quite a bit, but that's probably why I went with 12 in the end, because I think Stardom only have like 6 or 7, and so it sometimes gets a bit repetitive. And so, like, the more you have, the more matches that you can, I guess, pair off and come up with interesting combinations. But yeah, I like the straightforward approach of Tony's one to just be like, it's a one-off show, see what we can do with it, and then Rob's more fleshed out universe. So yeah, that's like, they all have merits to them.
And hopefully you all enjoyed this Matchmaker edition of the Smark Moments Smack Talk podcast. Hopefully the mock draft is something you want us to revisit. And of course, whenever we do the mock drafts, we're always going to follow it up with the Matchmaker. We're not just going to be like, we picked these people and it doesn't matter at all, because that would be kind of pointless. Even when we did the very first mock draft thing, which I'm pretty sure was one of the Darkcast things where Rob and I just sort of had done like the 93 roster or something, where we were like, oh, let's see if
it was one of those weird nights, because I remember being the one to set it up, where I just grabbed the 95 roster and said, hey, what would you do if you split the roster?
And it was like, oh, well, Rates Ramon would be my champion, and I'd probably put him against this, and like, you know. So it's been a thing for a couple of years now, and we want more and more and more of that. So sponsor it if you can do the pick your poison. If not, at least let us know. Hit the like button and make sure that you are doing all the other stuff that we mentioned before. Picking up some stuff on Redbubble and TeePublic if that's you're interested in the merchandise side of things at all. Obviously, I mentioned before about the DC versus Marvel stuff. That's all going to happen half on Smart Out Moment and half on Fanboys Anonymous. So if you don't know what Fanboys Anonymous is, go over to the Blue brand website over there. Check out Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, all that stuff on that. And make sure you go to amangotree.com and like, follow, favorite, share, subscribe, everything that you can see there, including my Facebook and Twitter at Tony Mango.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. You can check out my work on Fightful and WrestleZone.com as well. I do know for a fact that DudeFelice.com looks way more close to ready than it ever has. I'm actually right now looking at the landing page, so that's right around the corner. Could hopefully lead to more things like this, where I just get to throw my random ideas at the wall and hopefully support it. Callum?
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings every weekend over at smarkoutmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their performances in the previous week. And also on smarkoutmoment.com, you will find the Fantasy League and see how all of our teams are performing, how many points we're picking up on the road to WrestleMania 40, with the next pit stop coming at Crown Jewel, where our teams will get updated a little bit, and hopefully Tony won't win another prediction contest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm buried for the rest of forever, but I'll keep trying. Robbed of points forever.
Is there an extra bonus that I get if I win another one?
You basically get to do what you did for the previous one again, so
nice.
That's your bonus.
I can switch everybody on everybody's team. And
God Emperor Mango.
Yeah. I have to be elected Supreme Chancellor first. Yeah, we have to take baby steps. Anyway, buddy, that's it for this Matchmaker. Thanks for listening, as always. Thanks you for your support, all your comments. And we will see you next time with either a Darkcast or the hot tags, depending on what happens next. I'm not entirely sure. You find out. Come back here, subscribe. We'll see you then. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.